I've had people reach out to me like, "What? How did you crack the code on Reddit? What did you do?" And it's like
Yeah.
any ad platform. Like you just need to know who your audience is, how to talk to them natively on that platform, and to not blow your money on stupid shit.
What are the best practices you have around Reddit? It's a question that comes up a lot from our customers, and I'd love to share with them a little bit more insight. You came to Primer, you started off with subreddit targeting, right? Purely
Um, that and retargeting.
and retargeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then tell me about kind of what were the challenges you were running into and why Primer? When did we come into play? I guess is the question. And why?
Yeah. Yeah, you guys came into play. Obviously, on the custom audience piece, most people sign up for Reddit with a personal email, and B2Bs usually have business emails. So we can take like the leads that we have in HubSpot, and then, Confluent uses Marketo and Salesforce. Most of theirs are business, and say, okay, translate all these business identifiers to personal. We're going to get a much better match rate on Reddit for exclusions. And then the other piece to your point was, yeah, we can target subreddits, but our potential ICP might not be on those subreddits, right? They might be on the homepage, random gaming subreddits, whatever. Like software and
Yep.
data engineers have pretty broad interest. So that's where we use that. So like the subreddits is very, tight. It's not going to have a ton of scale, right? Like if you think about Apache Kafka and data streaming, because you'll get people like, oh my God, I've seen the same WarpStream ad like 20 times, which it actually in my experience is like once people start complaining about frequency, that means like you're getting the frequency right.
Yeah, 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 for
Uh,
sure. They
so
know who you are.
yeah, so that it just doesn't have scale. So the primer audiences come in and we essentially say, okay, across Reddit in general, just to serve ads to these people. And you still get people, it's like these are Redditors, like they know tech, but they'll have like the stupidest comments of like, oh, I got this on a gaming subreddit and it's about Apache Kafka, but I am a data engineer that uses Apache Kafka. It's like, yeah, again, it works. We did briefly try like layering like the subreddit plus the first party, third party. Obviously, that jacks the CPM up a little bit, but I mean, it's nothing compared to what LinkedIn is. So we're still kind of experimenting around that stuff. But I've had people reach out to me like, "What? How did you crack the code on Reddit? What did you do?" And it's like
Yeah.
any ad platform. Like you just need to know who your audience is, how to talk to them natively on that platform, and to not blow your money on stupid shit. So like, don't dump 90% of your budget retargeting. Figure out the creative that works with them, iterate. Like, and don't get obsessed with like, oh my God, I can't do last click attribution for everything. And they didn't fill out a form. It's like we're in the B2B space. Like if they hit your website, we at least know what company they're with. Let's just do company level attribution. Like stop stop freaking out. I think if you go on the Reddit business subdomain, they don't have a lot of people that can actually say the ROI. Like they'll just be like,
Mm,
oh, like clicks are cheaper or, engagements
right,
high.
right.
Whereas we're just like, okay, did we serve you an impression? Can we tie it to your company? And then did you take some conversion action later? And obviously we can do that at the click level with like factors, which we use for ABM analytics, be like, what was the first source? What was the last source? We have
Yep.
mixed panel and segment. We can see all that granular user history. So, we can see stuff of like, I think we have like a K deal with Target. It's like, okay, we definitely had some influence on LinkedIn, but we also had click-based influence on Reddit. So all this stuff is like getting a lot easier to do than it used to be, but you still have to have like the common sense of, what's going on with the data, right? Because if you just looked at like paid search, you just be like, oh, that's the easiest thing to track. Let's just dump, 90%
Everything
of
in the
our
paid
budget in
search.
paid search. And 40+% of it will be brand. Why is it
Yep.
brand? Because
Oh,
brand is easy to track as an MQL to an
yeah, yeah,
SQL. And
yeah,
they're just using like Tableau dashboards. Like that is like at these big companies, that is their view of the world. Like
right.
you have a growth team, you have a product, like you have all these teams, and then they're like, okay, I'm gonna disassociate myself from the full, pipeline view of things.
So your approach to measurement is one of more of just like influence in the buying journey,
Yeah.
not last click, not first touch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
that makes
in
sense.
my experience, it's like then you get into analysis by paralysis. So you
Sure.
never actually do anything actionable. If you have a small lean team of one like me, that just it doesn't make sense. Because again, I
Right.
think I told you in the past, they were like, does this metric go up and to the right or down to the right? Like that's what we care about. So essentially I can just be like, okay, influence pipeline and revenue was X and Y. We know it costs Jason, Z per month or per year to run this. Z should be less than X and Y. Keep doing that. Obviously, if we have like incrementality data and we can start deduping stuff. And you can also just apply like some fudge factor common sense stuff. Like, okay,
Yeah.
we know 100% of what is trackable, we did not incrementally influence. So we're not going to,
Factor
use
that
that
in.
number.
Yep.
So it's a bit of like, in some aspects, some people probably be like, oh, that's a very loosey goosey model, but it's like, it's very practical and it allows you to move quickly and make decisions.
Yeah, it could. I mean, there's no single source of truth anymore. It can't
Yeah.
be. There's too many imperfections in every approach to measurement. But I
Yeah.
I do think it's like I do think it's interesting to like try to figure out. It's yeah, you could say is this directionally helping, but then
Sure.
it becomes the question of all right, how much more do we invest, right?
Yeah.
And then how do you kind of think about that? And how did you come up with that 74x ROI number? I'm curious. Like,
Yeah. The 74x for Reddit is purely click based.
okay,
Um, so it's just like, because we can't measure impressions at a company level, but I can quickly pull report and factors because it's connected to HubSpot. Be like first source, last source. Is it Reddit?
yep.
Okay. What is the influence pipeline deal, revenue amount? Like they could start at a very small amount and then it could grow to multi-million dollar a year
Yeah,
contract. So that
LTV is
makes it
huge.
easier for me because, if I was working at some SaaS where it's like we're selling $10 per a month licenses,
Yeah,
like think like Asana or ClickUp, it's like, okay, that's much harder. Like you have to drive a much higher volume of conversions versus I don't need to do that. It's like I just need quality. Like again, if I can get like an NVIDIA, an Open AI, like any of those companies, it's like one of those alone will be like, oh, marketing is positive for the entire year.
yeah. Yeah, okay, I gotcha. Like, prior to coming back to the question of, like, prior to Primer, did you guys find that the subreddit targeting was effective without any audiences applied? Like, you guys were getting, good enough, assessment of kind of the influence and then ROI?
Yeah. I mean, we were
Yeah,
still ROI positive because
yeah,
I think that at that time and even now, like our max CPM on Reddit is like $3.
yeah. Yeah, it's
So
just so cheap.
it's so
Yeah,
cheap right now.
yeah,
I'm sure that'll change in another year or two, like any platform.
yeah,
So the primer stuff, though, we can partition it out by okay, it's this ad group or campaign. We can do the same thing in LinkedIn. We'll do
yep,
a prospecting campaign, but like we can be like,
yeah,
okay, this only has primer audiences versus we used to do like LinkedIn job titles and skills. The primer stuff, works better because we can connect HubSpot to LinkedIn, to factors, all
yeah,
that kind of stuff. So Gray's continually tweaking that, but yeah, that tends to work a lot better. And we can do all this Boolean logic with your builder, right? Of like, okay, this, but not this. And so like if you look in some of our audiences now, all the stuff I used to do manually of like, okay, pull the conversions that happened last week and upload it as a CSV, I can just be like, it's this criteria in HubSpot,
right,
exclude,
yep.
so it saves me a ton of time.
You mentioned being thoughtful about the creative and sort of how you approach advertising on Reddit. One of the thoughts I think a lot of people have about Reddit targeting is if you move out of the subreddit, right? So much of Reddit is contextual, right?
Yeah.
For it to feel native, it has to feel contextual. Moving out of the subreddits, is it does this like to your point earlier, right? I think you even said it. It's like, why are you talking about Kafka in a game? Our gaming, right? What's your philosophy there?
I mean, ideally, we would, if we had more people than me, we would make the creative more contextual to the subreddit. Like I've seen people be like, "Hey, we advertise on like programmer humor, and so like we make memes
Mhm.
just for that subreddit." But it's like I just don't have time to do that. So like again, it hasn't really come up as like a thing. And we do this evergreen approach where it's like we just have a shitload of creative that we're constantly rotating. So again, it hasn't been a thing. Like we have free form posts, link posts, video posts. we we work with a partner called No Boring Brands, and they do like these skit-based 30-second videos where it's like, shot on a phone, and it's some guy like calling his Kafka provider all pissed off, and it's like, with WarpStream, this kind of thing never happens. And we're working with another partner to do more polished videos where it's like, okay, when we launch a feature, it's like an animated, polished, explainer video. So I think, one of the things I've talked to our Reddit rep was like, okay, I just need to break things out more of like, because they don't do even creative rotation with
Mm,
LinkedIn, like to just be like, hey, this ad group is this audience, but it's only like free form ads. This ad group is this audience, but it's only this type of video ad. So I can better partition budget and performance. So that's kind of on my to-do list. But again, I wish I could just go to them and be like, just have even creative rotation. Then like I wouldn't have to parcel this out so much.
right. So that's interesting. How do you then optimize since downstream kind of performance is an attribution is I don't know, what's the right way of saying this? Is extended over a longer period of time, and you're not sort of seeing view through conversions or last click conversions necessarily inside the Reddit platform. What's your approach to optimizing for creative and picking winners?
So it's twofold. Like short term is looking more at like um, visits to the website because we know
Mhm.
we don't have the bulk conversion volume downstream for signups to really do that. And I've known, I don't know why it is, but every platform if you say, optimize the campaign for conversions, the CPM is always like double or triple what it is for link
Sure.
clicks. So that's short term. And then yeah, longer term is like looking in, primer factors, all these other places to be like, okay, we know the really valuable stuff is like it takes a few months, whether it's self sign up, like pay as you go. Okay, you have to burn through all $400 in free credits. You're probably transitioning off PubSub or open source Kafka. So again, there's like this
Yep.
time period where it takes to just get going. And again, we're a consumption based product. Or, if it's a really big company, it's like they're going to do a POC,
Procurement.
and like you had to go through with us, and then
Yeah.
then they might do like a 3-year commit,
Right.
right? So it's like there's these differing sales cycles, so it just takes a while to do stuff.
All right. So to your point though, right? Like the downstream conversion, it's hard to optimize towards that. So you're mostly just optimizing towards, like de-anonymized websites de-anonymized companies visiting your website. It's
Yep.
like this creative or this ad group is driving more of our, good fit folks. Is
Yep.
that it?
Yeah,
Okay.
like we need them to get on the site. They need to be there
Yeah.
a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
To your point, we de-anonymize them at a company. The only place where it's tricky, which you probably are aware of with all these enrichment tools, and
Hmm.
since you all built your own identity graph, is like if a company is super new, like they're still in stealth mode or they recently came out, a lot
Yeah.
of times you can't really tie it to a company yet. So we'll have, for instance, like companies that spin off of the big AI companies, and we'll have like a deal cooking with them. And it'll be like when we first got the sign up, it's like not set, don't know who
Right.
this is. So you're always going to have that pocket of folks as far
Yeah.
as enrichment. Like there's a lag time of
Yeah.
associating an ID or person with a company.
But, in terms of creative, it sounds like you're doing like kind of all the different formats. Do you find that certain formats work better than others?
So I think there's like a first mover advantage thing of like,
Sure.
you know, we were one of the first, forget B2B, like just brands in general that jumped on freeform. And at first they were like super successful because I don't even think people realized they were ads because we
Mm,
get comments of like, oh, this is a really good Reddit post. And I'd be like, oh shit, I didn't realize this was an ad. Whereas now I think people realize they're ads. So we
yeah.
tend to do more variety. And I think you get that in any ad platform. Like there's some new creative option or ad unit, and it's like, okay, it's like any growth thing, right? Like you'll be like, oh, for a period of time, this thing worked like gangbusters, but it's like
Law
it's
of shitty
more
click
indefinitely.
throughs. Yeah. It's the law of shitty click throughs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Diminishing returns.
But I think the
Yeah.
thing that like jumped out to them that was unique is like we don't turn off comments. So we can use those ad units, whether they're free form, to like answer questions. We've had like we've had like leads come in through them. I mean, Predators are pretty like spicy and whatnot. So some of them they just post derogatory things. But some people will be
Yeah.
like, "How is this different from at MSK?" And "Oh, I see you guys do this. I have a question about this." And again, you can just
Right.
respond in real time with those people and give them information. Just our whole philosophy is like just like the MQL SQL hamster wheel. It's like we don't want to force you to go to our website to get information, to get you in like a sales cycle, to force you to talk to sales. So it's that same philosophy of like we leave comments on ads, but again, we're giving them the information. So it's not this friction point where they're like, I don't want to talk to sales. You're like, you must talk to sales. And they're like, "Ah, oh, okay, here's how much this would cost you." And they get the information they need.
Right.
It's getting away from that mindset of like, it's got to be a trackable MQL to SQL and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. I love that. I mean, that the world is going PLG for a reason because people don't want to talk to other people.
Yeah, because that was the
Yeah.
thing in our offsite recently. We have like customers that just self-service signed up and they're like they're pushing petabytes a day. It's like, yeah, that's the point. Like if the funnel is so good and the product is so good, they really shouldn't have to talk to sales unless they need something really
Yeah.
specific. Like it
Yep. Yep. I love that. That's how we're trying to build Primer too. Mobile versus desktop. Thoughts on that with Reddit? And to your point about the, sort of website de-anonymization, do you see any differences in de-anonymization rate between
it's
mobile versus desktop?
it's probably the typical stuff you're aware of with like SaaS. It's like 75+% of the valuable, non-shit traffic is going to be desktop. And so we do stuff on every ad platform, Reddit included, of like, we basically advertise only in feed. So we don't do like conversations, audience expansion, ad networks. Like we
Right.
know that's
Yeah.
where the majority of fraud and garbage comes through. We pay a little more in a CPM, but we know like, okay, if the pixel or server side tracking like Cappy is showing conversions, they're going to be way more like legit. And we narrow that audience targeting and focus over time to be like,
Mhm.
okay, we were targeting all these countries, and it's like, let's pull the data from HubSpot. Oh, big surprise! Like India will eat up most of the budget, even if we constrain to like the two tech cities in India, but like the revenue from them isn't as high as like if we can just get like one or two good deals from like the United States, the UK, Australia. So like I have to always tell sales like, okay, we're switching this up. Like when you look at our sign up Slack bot, sign up volume is going to go down. I don't really care because now they're coming through and they're way more legit sign up.
Qualified.
And like as
Yeah.
a salesperson, that's all you should really care about because you're getting your crazy commission. You know, that's all like consumption and contract based. So these are going to be higher. So like, don't be like we
Yeah.
need more pipeline. You're getting more qualified pipeline.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. So you guys, so you, but otherwise you do accept sort of like you don't constrain to desktop only or anything like that. I heard somebody recently say do desktop only and then you can actually track last click conversion from Reddit. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But you're also like, you also might be shooting yourself in the foot because that's not really the role Reddit plays in most people's, go to
No, I
market.
mean, again, our focus is mainly in feed. We don't get
Yeah.
too concerned with desktop or mobile because they may come initially on mobile and come back on desktop, right? You're on Reddit
Yeah.
on your phone, and
Yep.
then that gets your interest, and then you go on your work computer and come back on desktop. So we
Yep.
know like the common sense stuff, like if we think how everyone shops for like software or SaaS stuff, it's multi-touch, it's multi-device. So we don't get like super concerned about that stuff. And I've seen people like argue with me on LinkedIn of like, oh, audience network is actually really valuable on Meta. I'm like, no, it's trash. And like my Meta rep told me that like it was just a
Uh,
bug, it overserved. I'm like, no, that's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah,
So
yeah,
so I mean, again, all this stuff is probably like you're like, yeah, we understand it, we get it. I think it's more like getting people to fully do it.
no, they don't. They don't. Yeah, fortunately. Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, and hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks. All
All right.
right.
See ya.
See. Bye bye.